Welcome to Connecting the Dots, the Longevity Playbook. In this episode, I'm joined by Davitt Meenaghan, the founder of ReWell. His journey from his grandmother's garden in Ireland to becoming a leading voice in biohacking is a story of connection to nature, to ourselves, and the science that's redefining how we think about Healthspan. We explore the cultural forces behind the longevity boom, the power of personalized health, and why the real magic lies in the fundamentals. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome. I'm really excited for this podcast. I'm joined by Davitt Meenaghan, and he's joining me from just outside of Dublin. We're going to dive right into longevity and really understand what that means and what the terminology means. And we're going to be a blank piece of paper for this podcast. So, Davitt, can you connect the dots from where you started to where you are today in your career?
Of course, yeah, I'd be happy to. So I suppose my journey started a long, long time ago, probably around 20 years ago. And actually, now that I look up, I can see a picture of my granny there in front of me. So my granny was an avid gardener herself back in the day, and she was one of the first women in Ireland actually to grow. I think it was courgettes and tomatoes commercially in Ireland. So that was back in the early 70s. So a long, long time ago, she would have had polytunnels, had a market gardening going, and been very into that side of it. So fast forward then to when I was around 10 or 11 years of age, in the house we're in at the moment. I remember looking out my window and there was two beautiful flowers. There was gorgeous looking St. John's wort, which is like this beautiful yellow color. And then there was echinacea, which I don't know how my granny got into telling me that these beautiful flowers also had a therapeutic and a medicinal value to them. So St. John's wort is obviously great for treating depression or just lifting mood. Echinacea, then, a lot of us will take it when we have the common cold or flu or something along those lines. So that sent me down on a bit of a path, and just this kind of explorative phase about finding out about the kind of everyday herbs, and what they can do for us, and then from there on to nutrients, and what nutrients can do from us and our food. And at that point, I suppose, as a kind of young 14-15-year-old, I would have been eating the typical kind of beige diet, which would have just been pasta with butter and salt, and like I was completely against all sauces and anything with flavor in it. I was averse to. So yeah, that was kind of fueling my I was very, very active sports wise. I played like three or four different sports at one point, and I kind of ran into one or two, let's say, like I basically wasn't fueling my body right.
Right.
And there was two occasions where, one, I was on a hockey pitch and I just after eating a load of McDonald's, and next thing my vision went blurry and I had to like slowly make my way onto the floor. I blacked out essentially in the middle of a hockey pitch when I was 15. So that was a bit of an eye opener for me. And that's when, I suppose, at the age of 15 or 16, when I start looking into the power of nutrition essentially, and like, you are what you eat, and what you put in your body as fuel will kind of affect your performance and how you feel, not only in the short term, but kind of in the medium to long term as well. So fast forward then a couple of years, I had various different jobs that to do with logistics and sales, and it was always kind of I suppose I was biding my time to come back to what I really liked, and really wanted to do, which was getting into nutrition and wellness. So I would always be buying supplements and trying different foods and trying different diets, and eventually I just decided to make it my career. That was at the age of 25. I went back to study naturopathic nutrition.
Okay.
I did 2 years here in Ireland and then did 2 years in England, which was amazing. I got to study under some pretty cool people over there. And that was perfect for me because it was bringing the kind of, nature and gardening and herbalism and naturopathy into the more kind of clinical orthomolecular and nutrition side to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a perfect course for me to do, and which just really invigorated my passion for bringing them both together. And yeah, decided to make a business out of it then around 3 years ago. So started ReWell 3 years ago.
Wonderful. So you were like a biohacker before it was an official term.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I often go to biohacking events and I tell people I've been at this for 15 years, kind of thing. Self-experimenting, and yeah. I see biohacking as, a lot of people view biohacking as this kind of futuristic, techie kind of data-driven,
I
to
think
do
that's
with
because of
AI
Brian
and all that.
Johnson. Yeah, like Brian
Yeah,
Johnson has
true.
made it, I think, more sophisticated than it has to be.
True, yeah, and I respect him for what he does, and I admire him for what he does. Now, I couldn't live his life. It's very like the fact that he doesn't go out in the sunshine, or he does like 13 minutes in the sunshine, and it has to be certain UV rays and all that. That's obsessive, but I absolutely, I admire him for what he does. Like he's a pioneer, and he's like a breacher for all of us to show what's actually possible as well.
When you go like the full depth of commitment and
Exactly,
have the
exactly.
resources to do it, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it is fascinating what he's doing, but I think there's another side to biohacking. It's kind of going back to nature, or using kind of like ancestral wisdom, things that we've done for eons as humans, essentially, that is like, is built into our physiology already. So whether it's like fasting or cold exposure, like those have such amazing benefits for our bodies, and they've been built into us as humans for generations, basically. So it's about merging those with the kind of techie stuff as well, and seeing what works for people, essentially.
Best of both worlds. I think, I mean, you touched on it in your story, like the fact that your grandmother was such an important driver in your awareness for the nutritional area. Like my grandmother also could tell me, any plant that was outside when we were out walking. I remember that, and I couldn't tell you that for the most part. So I think, you're talking about that ancestral knowledge, but the intergenerational knowledge I think has been lost over the past two generations. So a lot of things that we knew that kept us well, that connected us to the earth, we're not doing anymore. And it sounds like that's a fundamental part of who you are and what you do. So that's really cool. Before we dive into ReWell, I wanna talk about like your thoughts on why longevity, like what are the drivers that are like pushing longevity to be such a booming term, like part of the economy at this point. Like why is it so big all of a sudden? Because it feels like it's everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's numerous different ways to answer that question. Like, obviously, with the advent of, big data, and everyone has wearables on, and everyone has an iPhone, so you're getting data back there. So, being able to actually influence those data points, and then look into the science and going through the science and seeing that, by influencing these certain different data points, that you can actually, reduce your biological age, and you can increase your lifespan or your health span. And I think with these, with the scientific and kind of technological advances, definitely it's definitely given us a snapshot into what's possible. So say with Brian Johnson, like I don't know, methylates at the age of an 11-year-old, or he's all these crazy different numbers that he's able to throw out. And yeah, I think that with that information, people are informed, and they're able to actually use that information in their own lives, and get some form of like real tangible results. But I also think, like, I suppose on a more philosophical level as well, I was thinking about this the other day, that like when it comes to longevity, there's this quest for youth, essentially, and everyone wants to look young, everyone wants to feel young, everyone wants to try and extend their lifespan as much as
Sure.
possible. And I think in like I'd be quite big into philosophy, and just looking back, oftentimes it was the elders in society that were revered for their kind of knowledge and their wisdom that they built over time. And I think there's been a shift in the last 30, 40 years, where now even, people in their latter years are just, thriving, or excuse me, striving to stay young, to look young, whether it's going plastic surgery, whether it's doing, like even seeing adults on social media and stuff as well, is kind of, there's almost like yeah, everyone's trying to stay young and hip and cool and all this. Whereas I feel like that's shifted in the last 30, 40 years. Before that, it was all about kind of, the wise elders would be that would be something that people wanted to strive to become. But I think the trying to be youthful these days is definitely in.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the same page with your thought process there. I think, media and the influencer has really pushed longevity to the forefront. And I think for sure, depending on the culture in the world, Western cultures don't value the elderly as much as other cultures do.
Hmm.
And I'm going to have like a menopause moment and I'll remember it after the podcast. But there's just like the use of language in Japanese. The word that they have for menopause is like, it's like a transition. It's like this really beautiful transformation, the meaning of it. Whereas across Europe and North America, it's associated basically with losing your value as a woman. So Japanese women experience the symptoms of menopause and address the symptoms of menopause less negatively, so that their coping through that period is much different. So I think that for sure it's an attitude about aging, and that is different in different cultures of the world. But then, I was reading your blog about like the current state of healthcare in Ireland. And then when you look at percentage of aged population plus the percentage of people with a chronic health condition, it points back to what you were saying about like, we're afraid of dying. And we're being confronted with the fact that we are very mortal very fast. And then all of that is kind of being fueled by this like influencer hype around it's so much better to be young. Look at me, just, stick a needle in and you're going to be there. It's funny. It's funny days. It's nice to watch if you're just really thinking of it as a movie, but then it's kind of like sad and scary when you realize, oh wow, this is the world.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
No, I love what you said there about menopause, because that's one thing I really kind of try and bring it back to fundamentally with my longevity clients, is that, like, we go through different archetypal stages in our life, and we move from one part of our life to the next, and all of them come with their benefits and drawbacks as well. So it's about embracing. I think people should embrace their latter years,
Yeah.
and really look to it as a point where you've gained all this experience, you've gained all this knowledge. Hopefully, you've a beautiful family around you. You've surrounded yourself with lovely people. You should have achieved as well, career wise, a lot of what you wanted to do, and it should be the time in your life when you can actually really reap the benefits of all of that. And it's about kind of setting new challenges as well. So for a lot of people, if they've come out of a 50, 60-year career, maybe, is about at that point actually figuring out what is your motivation now, and I think it's a lot of the time it's about looking within
Hmm.
instead of trying to chase a career goal or trying to satisfy a partner or raise a family or something. It's actually about, it's a beautiful time to actually go within and find something something that you've always been passionate about. I think one of the number one things that we've seen, you see it in the blue zones and you see it in a lot of the research, is around community and connecting with community and spending more time with your community. And I think giving as well, giving back to, whether it's your loved ones, whether it's a community, whether it's on a greater scale, I think that's a really, really powerful driver for people and gives them purpose into their latter years, or the kind of
Yeah, I mean, well, purpose and meaning is important in every phase of life, and this actually, I remember in our initial conversation, you were talking about the archetypes across life, and I was like, I know what you're talking about. It's the maiden, mother, crone, at least
mhm,
for at
yeah.
least for women, and yeah, and then you really have to check in with your associations on the values and benefits of each of those archetypes, and then that can be your paradigm time shift for wherever you are in
Mhm.
life. Really, 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 really cool. And also almost a little romantic, because then you go back to the storytelling element that kind of connects us all as people. So before I rabbit hole on that, tell me more about what you do at ReWell, because it's a very holistic concept, and you're doing a lot of things. So go into detail with all of them.
I mean, I could go down rabbit holes in this one as well. It is so. I suppose my vision for ReWell was to uh, fundamentally is to connect people back to themselves and back to nature, basically, and to kind of um, yeah, make wellness a part of their life on a day-to-day basis. Um, I draw from different kind of disciplines as well. So I qualified as a naturopathic nutritionist. I've done health coaching, wellness coaching, yoga, meditation, all different things. My next thing I think is going to be in functional medicine, because I just find that absolutely fascinating. I've done courses in, say, herbalism. Then on a more kind of back to nature side of it, I've done permaculture courses and things around that. So getting people to essentially take responsibility for their health again. And that's what I feel like when people ask me what biohacking is, that's what I feel like it is. It's like a systems-based approach to take back responsibility of your own health, essentially. So we've outsourced so much of it to doctors, physicians, physios, PTs, all this. And it's about learning, really feeling into yourself again, and it's kind of taking control of your own life, basically. So with ReWell, I started off doing nutrition and health coaching, essentially. And then it just grew from there. My own passion would have been the biohacking and, having wearables and hemp mats, HBOTs, red lights, doing the cold dips, all that kind of stuff. So I just decided to integrate that into ReWell, essentially. There's any amount of nutritionists and dietitians out there, but I was like, just do what I love doing. And I saw a shift as well. I'd say around 5 years ago, a shift with people kind of moving towards, taking care of themselves again. A lot, like, there's a big, massive surge in this kind of fitness culture at the moment, and wellness culture, which is amazing, and I absolutely love it. So it's just playing on that. I love to go to all sorts of different biohacking events or human optimization events, and I love to take the kind of the information and the ideas that I get from there and try and bring them back into ReWell and implement them there. So yeah, we run longevity programs for people as well, which is interesting, and it's a learning curve at the moment, because I suppose everyone's different. So it's kind of hyper personalized medicine is how I term it.
Yeah, that's actually how I saw it. When I read your website, I'm like, this is like so individual and so personal. And I think that's what's so interesting, because it's not a one size fits all service.
Exactly. So yeah, we what we do is do a lot of tests to start with. So we'll test people's DNA to see what their kind of predispositions are. And then from there, we go on to epigenetics and methylation. We do blood tests with people, do kind of bioimpedance, which is like I don't know, if, those in-body scanners and stuff.
For your body composition.
Exactly, body composition, exactly. So, and then it is client led, depending on what their goals are, essentially, and what they're presenting with as well. Um, say, say if we I'm just trying to think of a case here so I've had to do, say, heavy metal testing with people to find out heavy metal and mold testing because of certain symptoms that they'd have. So you're trying to identify kind of the predispositions that they have on a genetic level, then see how their genes are expressing themselves through epigenetics, and
Hmm.
then have a look at their bloods and, just their kind of take into consideration everything, their medical history, their family histories, and then bring it all together and kind of make a nice, very succinct plan for them to work towards, and try not to overwhelm them, because it is quite a lot of data that you're kind of gathering.
Sure. Yeah, and it's what people are ready, willing, and able to do, right? Like that's the behavioral piece of it. You can have the answer, but it's also got to be translated through that pathway as well. Like,
Exactly.
who are the people who are coming to you? Like, do you have like a client type, like a persona that is goes to your service more than others, or like a group of different demographics?
Well, I'd say like realistically, it's probably like predominantly women, but also a few men as well, between the ages of 50 and 70 that are doing the longevity program. Now you do, I get quite a lot of interest as well from, the younger kind of cohort as well. The majority would be that kind of age group.
Hmm.
They're coming in, and yeah, it's this quest for eternal youth, really. And the reality is, most of them, they're looking for a magic pill, really. And so you just, once again, you have to get it across to them that, like, this isn't. It's a lifelong pursuit, and it's daily. It's consistency that really matters. You're not going to get into a pill, but it's actually, without sounding too cheesy, it's the journey where you're going to find the happiness. Going out for the walks, or going doing the cold dips, or going playing pickleball with your friends, or whatever. That's where the happiness is going to be found.
Sure. And like, is there a general complaint that they're coming to you with? Like, what are the symptoms? What are the things that they're looking to address? Particularly that longevity category.
I mean, I think it's more so, as you alluded to at the start. It's just this absolute explosion of the word longevity in public consciousness at the moment. So people are just quite aware of it. And, if you turn on the TV, I'd say half the ads on the TV are for better skin, or for, multivitamins, or this, that, and the other. So it's just, I suppose it's a curiosity on their part, not that they're coming to me with symptoms per se. I mean, I suppose the women, perimenopause, that kind of stuff, menopause,
It's a long
potentially.
list.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Exactly. Yeah, I've gone down a rabbit hole on that in the last couple of months, and um it's crazy, really, the extensive list of symptoms, up to 60 symptoms. And yeah, it's great the way it's also becoming. We're learning a lot more about it at the moment, and it's becoming, a readily spoken about topic, instead of this kind of hush hush. And like you said as well, it's not been seen as this end of the line for a woman. It's now been seen as this, like, right, it's a transformational stage for ladies, which is great. Because I think women themselves aren't fully educated on it, and don't
No,
know enough about
no,
it.
no.
Yeah.
Like this can be a whole podcast, but I mean, women's health was largely ignored until around 1991, 1992. There was just no studies done on women. um if you've got like a doctor or an OBGYN that you go see as a woman that is in her midlife, the likelihood that she will have had any sort of training on lifestyle medicine, unless she went out and sought it, or menopause, is really, really low. Like, there's no informed healthcare practitioners
Yeah.
to really go
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, our mutual friend Grace, I went to see her give a talk at FIBO over in Germany, and she made that very point that, like, I think before 96 or something, there was no studies done on females, which just blew my mind. Like, that is crazy. And then she made some comments that it was, the pharmaceuticals or whoever it was made a decision in the 70s that because the female cycle was a little more
Right.
complicated than exactly, yeah, that they just decide, right, we mightn't get certain drugs passed because we can't prove or disprove or whatever with the same kind of confidence as we could with males. So my mind was blown, like, absolutely blown. But I think there's a movement. There is definitely a female health movement at the moment, and it's definitely empowering a lot of ladies to get informed, and to help their friends and family as well to get informed, and to make decisions based on that.
And I think the great thing is, and I think it's driven by the younger generation and their willingness to kind of call bullshit on a lot of the things that, people my age just never really spoke up about. But a lot of the things that were really shameful to talk about in the areas of, women's health or sexuality or financial elements or discrimination are really talked about more openly, not always more productively, but at least the conversations are on the table. So it gives us at least a vocabulary. And I think that's the thing that's really hard when you're navigating something new and you don't have vocabulary to really even communicate what's going on. So I wanted to ask, You talked about really getting people connected back to themselves and back to nature. How do you do that? Like I've also been a personal trainer for a couple of decades, and I know there were clients that would come to see me that they lived their life from the neck up. Like there was no connection or any grounding in their physical being. They were always so cerebral. So how do you address that with people who come to you?
I suppose there's multiple different ways to do it and different levels to that as well. Firstly having a conversation with them and finding out what they like and what they don't like, whether it comes to exercise, whether it comes to foods, whether it comes to socializing, whether it comes to their hobbies, what they're doing. I'm getting them to analyze. I think awareness is a huge thing. So
Hmm.
whether it's like you're talking like on a somatic level and actually feeling into the body, that's what I mean about kind of learning your body and your mind and how you work. So there's a feedback loop there that you can have with yourself about, if you put yourself in a certain situation and you feel a little uncomfortable, learning to identify the emotions that are coming up within you and putting a finger on them and saying, right, I don't like doing this. Maybe the next time I might do it differently. Or like same thing with exercise as well. It's, I do say to people, a lot of people, you should try most things, give most things a go, whether it's, if someone says they don't like cold water immersion, well,
Hmm.
you've never tried it. So, who knows, you might like it, or whether it's hiking or whether it's playing a sport or something. So, case in point, my sister, she's 3 or 4 years younger than me. She's never played football really in her life. So then we were all kicking a football on the lawn for half an hour. Everyone, my mum, all my sisters, my nephews and nieces, all that. And she's like, Jesus, I didn't realize football was so much fun, And it's like, well, you've never tried it. It is great fun. There's a reason men run around after a leather ball half their life, because
Yeah.
it's good fun and it's,
Yeah.
your endorphins are kind of your endorphins get going. You're playing with friends and
Competition.
family and
Yeah.
competition as well. Exactly, that needs to be expressed as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's really about getting people to try things and then trying things, but also knowing your boundaries and knowing what you don't like as well. And I think, yeah, to find out what you do and you don't like, you have to experiment. So going back to like a biohacking mentality, really.
Yeah. I mean, I think, for me, how I translate that is like you need a user's guide, and that changes in almost every archetype of your life. So like what worked in one season will not work in the
Hmm.
next. So it's like going back to the drawing boards and really noticing and naming what's going on. I think I'm always really interested in, how people approach the connection piece, because I think that like your body always gives you clues and cues, but
Hmm.
it does it at first very quietly and then eventually very loudly if you didn't listen. So it's like, a patient librarian. It's like, it's time to close, it's time to close. And then eventually, you're pushed out of the building. But very cool. So tell me some success stories that you've had with people, because, you offer everything from like the hot cold to the oxygen therapy to also fertility. Can you talk about, obviously without disclosing any personal information, but just kind of outcomes that you're really proud of?
Yeah, it's been quite a few. I suppose it's hard to quantify some of them. And yeah, I shouldn't speak about too many or some of them definitely, but it's just like there's been one or two occasions recently where just the change in people's, sensing a change in people's mood and their general state of being over the course of a few weeks by simple implementation of a good diet, getting out and about, depending on what they're in for, using a biohacking modality such as red light therapy or hyperbarics. But yeah, just to see, like recently I had someone come in with a post surgery, just four wounds that weren't healing. So two internal and two external. And, when she came into me first, she was in tears of desperation. Like, it had been a couple of months since her surgery and nothing had happened. And then 2 weeks later, coming back in again and like just tears of joy. I got a big hug, of how just the needle was moved so quickly for that person just by compounding these different modalities, using them together, good diet, and then one or two of the biohacking modalities to just accelerate the healing and get the person to where they want it to be. Um, yeah, I'm just trying to think of other
And is
ones.
the like for healing acceleration, is that oxygen therapy? Is that red light? Is it together or
Yeah,
in
so I
isolation?
use it depends. So once again, it's nuanced depending on the person and what they need. But I've started experimenting on myself first of all. But the superhuman protocol, similar to Gary Brecka's one. So I have a
Hmm.
PEMF mat, which is a pulse electromagnetic frequency mat. So we do 10 to 15 minutes on that. Basically, and what that does is it energizes the cells essentially, and it polarizes them with the magnetism. It gives them a bigger surface area to absorb nutrients and oxygen. So then we put people in the hyperbaric chamber for an hour, which then binds the oxygen to the cell, and then the red light for 15 to 20 minutes afterwards, which then drives all the nutrients and the oxygen into the cell, basically, which just like massively increases the mitochondria and the energy of the cell. So getting good results with that at the moment. Yeah. Now that's only a bit of the picture. I always have a chat with people about their
Of
food and
course.
what they eat. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean the lifestyle factors can't be understated, but as you said, they're a bit boring and repetitious and not what people want to hear. It's like, yes, go out for a walk and eat more vegetables and drink your water. But that's the, can I just take a pill for that? And yeah, the answer is no, I think.
Yeah, but they're the ones that really make you feel good, I think, though, by doing those consistently, like we all know when we're on a bit of a health kick and, you're eating right and you're exercising, you feel on top of the world, like you feel absolutely amazing. So I think while the biohacking modalities, they definitely have their place and they definitely, a lot of the time, they can be the catalyst to start the healing process or to really give people a little jump start in it.
Hmm.
I think that the success often lies within the fundamentals, the food, the exercise, stress management, sleep. That's where
Yeah.
it's not the most
No, they're
flamboyant
not
of answers, but
sexy.
it's exactly. Yeah.
I think that's I have had a coach years ago, and she would always say the phrase like don't mow the lawn when the house is on fire. And so if you don't have your foundational habits in place, don't add a supplement, don't add a cold dip. First
Hmm.
get your house in order.
Hmm.
um and that's like in any podcast that I listen to actually with longevity experts, they're like, if you're not addressing your sleep, if you're not addressing your nutrition and hydration and stress management, then like it's the cheapest longevity hacks that you can do, but
Exactly.
they're
Yeah.
they're hard,
Yeah.
simple but
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. Well, some of them, like I suppose you can take magic pills, but they're the ones that there's a lot of research coming out at the moment around, say, omega-3 and vitamin D for longevity, and like they're the simple ones that we should all be taking, and they're shown to actually move the needle massively for longevity. When people are looking for like NAD, subcutaneous this, IV that, this, that, and the other, they're the top maybe 2 or 3%, but the rest is so important beforehand, I find.
When you do blood tests on people, are you testing for like nutritional deficiencies, or are you looking at like nutritional levels? Is that something that you're doing with clients?
So there's certain nutrients you can test through blood tests, but I would use like a true diagnostic test for they have a new one
Hmm.
called True Health. So it's
Hmm.
175 biomarkers basically, which is amazing. So you can tell a lot from that. You get really cool ones like coenzyme Q10. Your omega-3 is done through that.
Hmm.
But the blood test is more kind of general to find, see if the body is fighting an infection, if there's inflammation. We'll have a look at their blood glucose levels, have a look at their lipid levels for kind of cardiovascular health and the electrolyte
Hmm.
levels. And that would then, so you do pretty basic ones of those. And they would then inform some more kind of detailed testing that you can do with people, and really get down to the nitty gritty of what's going on for people. But a lot, like once again, it's a lot of it. I'd say it repeats itself quite a lot for a lot of people. A
Yeah,
lot of people
so
are like
there's
dehydrated.
Yeah.
inflamed. They're probably, when it comes to like dysautonomia, they're probably in a sympathetic nervous system state. So they're kind of more fight or flight the whole time. So
Hmm.
trying to balance those things is what you see a lot of.
This is what I love about the hyper personalization, because like when you have these results, you're like, this isn't general health advice. This is me. This is what specifically my state is and what I can do to start steering. So I think it's so powerful, especially when people start getting invested in having this level of detail with their data. It's really cool and empowering. Do you have any, like, in terms of your business aspirations, do you have any dream collaborations or anyone that you'd like to work with or work for?
Yeah, I suppose I was thinking about this one, and I mean, I work with quite a few companies that the ones that I want to work with at the moment, and I'm kind of waiting for, with a this explosion of AI at the moment, and it's just
Hmm.
growing exponentially. So I'm kind of sitting back to see where it's going. There's some really interesting stuff happening with a few different companies.
Hmm.
One of them, like True Diagnostics. I was at a biohacking event over in Estonia recently, and the CEO, Matt Dawson, he gave this amazing insight into the next, I suppose, iteration of AI is what it's going to do. And this is absolutely crazy, but it's really cool. So it will take all your DNA, your epigenetics, your blood test, your wearables, all that, bring it all together, and it will then tell you basically like where, say if you're going on holidays to Amsterdam for 3 days,
Hmm.
you can ask it to, say if you're in like a, say if you're trying to put on a bit of muscle or something like that, it
Hmm.
can tell you where to go eat, what to go order, and yeah, it can tell you like for recovery where to go. It can book you into those places. It can give you a protocol when you get there. So like the level of personalization is just gonna just keep going to these crazy levels. So I'm trying to stay,
On
up with
top of.
that basically. Exactly is kind of so I'm looking out for cool companies that are doing those kind of things. There's another one, Heads Up, that I'd like to mention there. I'm
Hmm.
just about to start with them. They bring together a lot of the data, but then also give actionable steps for people that that they can take, and you can input. Say if you're doing a hyperbaric um, therapy protocol, you can input that in, and then it will correlate that to your wearable data, and it'll, if there's an increase in HRV, if there's a decrease in heart rate, it can show the effects that it's having, and spit you out a report, which is pretty cool.
That, I mean, in my limited understanding of AI, like what I hear when you're talking about the true diagnostics is it sounds like you've got this, you know, assimilation of data, interpretation of data, and then there's an agent that basically goes and maps out your, like your personal assistant. It's like, okay, David, here's your menu for your upcoming trip. This is where you're going to work out. Shall I go ahead and book your sessions in for you? I
Exactly.
mean,
That's it. It's crazy, isn't it? It's
yeah.
absolutely crazy. And then there's
I mean,
another company called Regenus Labs. They are doing what's called, it's like an augmented reality. So essentially, you'll input your data and where you put your goals in as well, and then it will tell you, and based on your data, if you if you don't do these interventions, if you do these interventions, say 50%, and if you do these interventions 100%, it can basically show you in the future, like a year, 2 years, 5 years out, the health of your system, of your body at that point. So it's like, it's amazing what it can do, really.
it's projecting my results and then showing the difference that I am. I mean, that would be like totally rewarding, because as I may or may not be staring at a chocolate bar, I could
Yeah, put it down.
I know the impact.
Yeah,
You have like the heaven and hell little angel demon on your shoulders. You're
yeah.
gonna die.
Yeah, you can get one of those little buzzers, the pal-off buzzers, to like every time you even think about it, like, zzz,
Yeah, it's
don't
like,
do it.
oh, okay. That would be interesting. I don't think anyone would sign up for that experiment though. Okay, those are all really cool shout outs and really cool potential partnerships. That's excellent to know what's happening in that space. What about my favorite and toughest question, I think. If you had 10 million to invest in a health span company and it can't be your own, and this is the thing that kills all the founders that I interview because they're like, "But who would you invest in and why?"
Jesus, that is a tough question. I think what I'd like to see is actually kind of more the general medical community kind of catch up with what's happening and become more preventative. So I suppose one of my dream people to work with as well would actually be the HSE in Ireland, which is a health safety enterprise or whatever it is. They're like the governmental body here. And I would love to, it's a dream of mine to actually perform like a study, like a massive, like, I don't know, 20, 30,000 people, a longevity study where you just, and you give them very simple interventions basically. And see a big cohort of people move the needle and reduce their biological age and improve their quality of life essentially. So while I think they've got enough money, I'd like to be the one to spend it
Yeah.
and do a study like that where you can prove out I don't know whether it's like the implementation of community groups in a village or in a town or something, maybe changing the town and excuse me the restaurants and stuff in the town or people's access to proper food and proper nutrition, change society to focus on health span would be a really cool thing. So while it's not a company,
No,
something
I
like
think
that could be cool.
that's a really great answer. I mean, it reminds me of that Netflix series Blue Zones, where they go and redesign the town or community to really
That's
shift the
exactly where
way.
I got it from. Dan Buettner's
Yeah,
one over in
yeah,
Ohio, I think. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So shout out
yeah.
to him. That's a really cool idea. And it should be done in most countries, in my opinion. There should be these big studies going on that can prove out these concepts on a bigger scale.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just figuring out that pathway to public health and to those public health dollars so that partnerships can be made. And it's like, how can you do it small at first so that you can get a proof case to go big? I like that. The woman that I interviewed yesterday is in charge of um, a longevity clinic in Dubai, and she wanted to spend her 10 million euros on, and she was like, I need more money. So this is the first case of asking for more money in this theoretical question. But she wanted to change the curriculum for medical doctors so that they got more functional medicine included in their training.
Bingo. Yeah,
Right? It's
yeah.
like take a step back along the chain and address the systemic part. So that's fundamentally what you're saying as well.
Brilliant.
So
Yeah.
I love those answers and that way of thinking actually. Um, any cheers.
I mean, the companies I've just mentioned there, True Diagnostics, I think it's pretty cool what they're doing. They're fantastic. Heads up with who I'm just about to start working with, they're pretty cool as well. But I mean, my kind of heroes in this space would be like your Ben Greenfields. He's just incredible, really, what he does. Um, there's a great movement in Ireland here at the moment. Up in Dublin, there was a longevity summit on recently, only last week. They're trying to bring basically make Dublin the longevity capital of the world, which is really cool. So yeah, really really cool. So I know it's great, isn't it? It's just on my doorstep. So. But off the top of my head, no, I suppose just, I mean, to all the functional medicine doctors, to all the kind of biohackers out there who are genuinely trying to make a difference and trying to get people to, yeah, take back control of their own health. I feel that they're the ones that deserve the shout out, because there's so many good people out there. There's so much good stuff happening at the moment. Like I said, there's a real revolution in wellness at the moment, whether it's, through biohacking, whether it's the longevity community, whether it's through spirituality or yoga or even the psychedelics, what's going on. It's really allowing people to kind of connect back to themselves. So yeah, I hope it continues to grow. Exactly, exactly. Thanks, Jennifer. I really appreciate it. Cheers.
Thanks for tuning in to Connecting the Dots. If today sparked a new idea, helped shift your thinking, or gave you something to take forward, share it, rate the show, or drop us a message. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next conversation. Until then, keep connecting the dots that matter.